Hello everybody, this is Bobby Bull with the Project Management section in the Office of Design. Today's webinar will be David Sherman's presentation on our Research Center, so I will hand it over to David.
Good morning everyone, thank you for joining us today. I just wanted to introduce the FDOT Research Center for some of you who might not be aware of all of the things that the Research Center does and how it supports your functional areas. I gave this presentation a little while ago to Bobby and his team and some individuals that came up to Tallahassee, so I'm looking forward to expanding on it just a little bit more, giving you a sense of some of the processes and procedures of the Research Center, and then I'd like to move in towards the middle of my presentation and show you some of the websites so that you would be able to access some of the projects that your functional areas are actually, the Research Center is actually funded, and you could have a little bit of a sense of the research that's going on that supports what you do. So who is the Research Center and what do we do? The Research Center exists to assist the Florida Department of Transportation in carrying out its mission, share results with other transportation agencies, and ultimately contribute to the improvement of the transportation system delivered to the traveling public. The purpose of this presentation is to present and describe some of the Research Center's functions and procedures, and to provide guidance to our internal partners, and from the recording of this presentation, our external partners as well. While this presentation will provide an appropriate overview, the Research Center Manual is the primary source of information regarding the procurement, administration, and management of research administered through FDOT's research program, and as such fulfills 23 CFR 420.209 requirements for establishing and documenting the research program management process. It will provide information useful to project managers, principal investigators, divisions of sponsored research, and other contractors and partners. The Research Center does not fund grants or in-house research, but does contribute funding to a limited number of pooled funded studies through the Federal Highway Administration's Transportation Pooled Fund program. The overwhelming majority of research projects administered by the Research Center here at DOT are contract-driven. The contract tools, for example, contracts or master agreements and task work orders, define the terms for any given project. The RC Manual supplements the contract tools and identifies the responsibility of FDOT personnel and contractors. It is recommended that all participants in the research program familiarize themselves with the entire contents of this manual. And I'll show you where that manual is on our internal and external websites later. We have some research coordinators that are FDOT staff located in major functional areas of the department. Research coordinators are the primary liaisons between their functional areas and the Research Center. As such, they coordinate information distribution and the research activities of their functional areas, notably in the development of the prioritized research needs package submitted at the beginning of the annual research cycle. Research coordinators may also provide general oversight on the progress of all projects managed within their functional areas, from contracting through quality assurance. Project managers are FDOT technical experts located within the functional areas of the department who serve as the primary points of contact with the principal investigators. The project manager provides technical oversight, approves deliverables and invoices, provides deployment plan information and updates, and otherwise generally the champion of the research. Within the Research Center Manual, Chapter 3 will provide guidance for preparing the proposal, Chapter 4 for managing the project, and Chapter 5 for ensuring the results are deployed effectively. Chapter 6 of this research manual provides information about the quality assurance review process used to assess and monitor the performance of the research and the implementation of the research results. The Research Center's mission is to improve and protect Florida's transportation system through the ethical, scientific conduct of research that increases global knowledge of products, processes, and practices, to transfer information, and to encourage the implementation of research results. Implementation has been a strong focus of the Research Center. In the last few years, we have annual implementation meetings with our functional areas to discuss those projects and how they are moving forward. The Research Center carries out this mission through the following: contracting with state universities and other research service providers to perform research in all areas of transportation, facilitating participation in transportation pooled fund studies with state transportation agencies and other organizations, contributing to national studies on subjects of benefit to Florida, also providing administrative and management processes to procure, conduct, monitor, and report on research performance, outputs, and outcomes, and finally supporting and monitoring the implementation of research products. FDOT functional areas identify and prioritize research needs that align with and support their respective strategic directions. The Research Center reviews and develops the needs into a proposed research program, which upper management and the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, reviews and approves, with comments and requests for modification as appropriate. Most of the research undertaken by the Research Center is applied, for example, designed to address existing needs in the near term. However, policy studies to improve decision-making and exploratory studies that may identify opportunities to address emerging or anticipated needs may also be conducted. The authority for the research program is found in Florida Statutes 334.044, Sections 20 and 21, and in Title 23 CFR Part 420. Funding for the research program comes from both federal and state sources. Federal funding accounts for over 2/3 of the research program funding. The basis of this funding is set forth in 23 CFR Part 420.107, according to which at least 25% of the state planning and research SPR funds, apportioned to a state for a fiscal year, is to be expended for research, development, and technology, otherwise known as RD&T, activities relating to highway, public transportation, and intermodal transportation systems. This funding is used to contract research needed by FDOT to improve its delivery of a safe and effective transportation to the traveling public in Florida. It is the responsibility of the Research Center to ensure the provisions and the requirements of 23 CFR Part 420 are met. Key responsibilities include preparing for FHWA review and approval of our annual SPR Subpart B work program to include a listing of research projects that utilize federal funding, project activities, and project status. FHWA must approve the projects in this research work program before they may be contracted. The Research Center serves as an FDOT liaison to and maintains relationships with a host of other entities, including but not limited to the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, AASHTO, the Transportation Research Board, TRB, and University Transportation Centers, UTCs. The primary goal of the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials is to foster the development, operation, and maintenance of an integrated national transportation system. AASHTO's Standing Committee on Research, SCORE, which is now called SCRE, is charged with staying informed of all transportation research programs in the United States, which it does largely through its working arm, the Research Advisory Committee, or RAC. RAC's membership consists primarily of state DOT research program managers. The Research Center manager serves as the FDOT representative on RAC. AASHTO also sponsors the National Cooperative Highway Research Program, Nchrp, in cooperation with FHWA. The program is administered by the Cooperative Research Programs Division of TRB. Each year, AASHTO standing committees and member departments, as well as FHWA, propose for selection candidate research problems from a host of highway transportation technical areas. Member departments vote by ballot on which projects to fund. The research coordinates FDOT's response to the initial Nchrp ballot for ranking new and continuing Nchrp projects. New proposals are due to TRB in September, followed by a series of votes by RAC, SCRE, and AASHTO member CEOs, the last of which confirms and finalizes the program. The Research Center also assists in the coordination of FDOT responses to National Research Program problem statement solicitations and calls for panel nominations, for example, cooperative research programs or AASHTO's Technology Implementation Group. So some of the members that we have at the Research Center include Daryl Dockstader, which is our Research Center Manager. Patty Brannon is our Research Development Coordinator, who often deals with all of the procurement of the contracts and facilitating those contracts. Jessica Vanden Bogart is our Technology Transfer Coordinator, who's primarily responsible for transferring the research result not only to our internal FDOT partners, but our external partners as well, contributing to the national and international database of research projects. I'm the Research Performance Coordinator, primarily responsible for the life cycle of the research project. Connie Humphrey is our Business Systems Coordinator, responsible for invoicing and deliverables. And Monica Zong also serves as a Technology Transfer Coordinator. The Research Center process starts with the solicitation to functional areas in October. Some of the components of this solicitation include the request for research template, and all of these solicitations are due in January of the following year. The solicitation process begins in mid-October when the Research Center sends the research coordinators and district secretaries a call for research needs. The list of prioritized needs is due in mid-January. Research coordinators are responsible for coordinating the development of research needs within their functional areas and submitting them to the Research Center by the advertised deadline. District requests should be coordinated through a single point of contact to serve as the research coordinator for the district. They are encouraged to develop a process for communicating the call for research needs to managers and employees, identifying and prioritizing needed projects for the functional areas, and obtaining functional area management review and approval. A request for research funding form is distributed with the solicitation. This form must be completed for each research need submitted to the Research Center. Each need statement must be ranked. No two need statements may have the same priority ranking. Technical experts preparing the need statements are expected to review the current state of art or practice and available and ongoing research in the subject area to ensure against any duplication of effort. The Research Center can offer assistance in obtaining more information about identified existing or ongoing research. Each request should also have a rational basis for the time and funding estimate based on the expertise of the developers of the need statement. Also distributed to research coordinators at the time of the research needs solicitation is an annual implementation survey regarding the implementation status of research results developed through projects completed the prior fiscal year. The purpose of this survey is to improve research results, implementation tracking, documentation, and analysis. It consists of a single two-part question that represents the status of the implementation of the research results, ranging from not implementable to implemented, and an explanation of the identified implementation status. Functional area research coordinators will receive surveys identifying the projects completed within their respective areas. Implementation surveys must be submitted for new needs requests to be processed. The Research Center reviews the requests with respect to their prioritization, potential impact and benefit, and potential for duplicating available or ongoing work, and the research workload and past performance of the proposed project managers and principal investigators when identified. Prioritized requests from functional areas are due in January of the following year. And once again, these are prioritized according to strategic focus areas, and the template, request for proposal templates, must be complete. So in late January, the Research Center prepares for management review a package of prioritized research needs. Included in the package is a listing of the prioritized needs from each functional area district, the request for research funding forms, and comments from the Research Center. Management will review and determine which projects are approved for funding, contingent, or not approved. Projects are approved based on need and available funding and are funded based on a timely submission. The next step in the Research Center process is to coordinate review and comment by affected offices, and this usually happens in January through April. These are affected offices as indicated by the request for research, typically involving a review of those affected offices, and affected offices should provide comments to the request. If functional areas and districts elect to fund projects not approved through the research solicitation by using their cost center funds, they are strongly encouraged first to reevaluate these projects, especially if they were not approved based on concerns regarding need, duplication of effort, or reasons other than funding limitations. Approved projects from the program cycle prior to solicitation are not carried forward. For example, approved projects for the 2015-16 program will not be processed if scopes of service have not been submitted to the Research Center by the end of the 2014-15 solicitation period. If the need for such projects is still high, they should be resubmitted with the prioritized needs in January. The status of the current fiscal year program is posted on the Research Center website on the Project Management Resources webpage, which I will show you a little bit later on in the presentation. In addition to the requirements of 23 CFR Part 420 already noted, state DOTs are to promote effective use of available resources. States are encouraged to cooperate with other state DOTs, FHWA, and other appropriate agencies to achieve objectives established at the national level, and to develop a technology transfer program to promote and use transportation research results. The Research Center accomplishes this by partnering with University Transportation Centers, UTCs, and the Local Technical Assistance Program, LTAP, and participating in pooled fund studies. The Research Center process continues by review and approval by executive leadership, and this usually happens in May or June. Commented requests for research are reviewed, they're approved or rejected, and additional comments are sought if needed. And finally, the Research Center process projects are submitted as part of the Subpart B to FHWA, and this usually occurs in May through June. These are approved projects submitted to FHWA. And once again, 2/3 of research budget funded by federal dollars. FDOT approved projects are presented to FHWA as an SPR Subpart B work program. FHWA reviews, comments on, and must approve the federally funded projects for the upcoming year. Contingent projects will be advanced to FHWA for approval through the status report cycle if funding becomes available. The compiled list of projects and the status is posted to the Research Center website in draft format pending FHWA's approval of the research work program. I'd now like to take some time to show you some of the websites that we have, both external and internal to our partners. The Research Center Internet site talks a little bit about programs and service and project management resources. So once again, this is our external facing website. So this is available to everybody, including our principal investigators and other state DOTs, as well as national groups. The key point that I wanted to point out over here on the left-hand side are the office resources, which gives you a little bit of information about us and who we are and what we do, how we are funded, the functional areas in which we serve our staff and our facilities, some of which I've already discussed and are also presented in the research manual in greater detail. These are the divisions. Once again, these are the personnel and the staff of the Research Center. Documents and publications are also available on this external website. I'll show you an internal website earlier, which will give a little bit more granulated information, PowerPoint presentations relating to the projects. But for our external partners, this is an opportunity for them to view our active and completed research projects. As indicated here, the search engine below contains the 500 most recent active and completed research projects. The SharePoint site offers a lot better and a lot more projects that have been funded through the Research Center. But on this page, you can see a little bit of information containing the summary report and the final report, and where the project is located on the national databases. Programs and services is another office resource. The requests for research proposals, which are asked for in October. Project management resources, which are extremely important to our project managers. Here on this page, we're able to find out the statuses of our fiscal year projects, and give you a little bit of an example of some of them that are approved and not approved. And these are from the ones that have been submitted, prioritized by the functional areas. Once again, also on this page are some information regarding instructions for completing the scopes of services. All projects have scopes, and we do have a template that's available here that allows for an easy completion of that scope that's submitted to the Research Center once the project has been approved. Every project has a kickoff meeting and a closeout meeting. The kickoff meeting details basically the scope and is required for all projects. Once again, on our internal SharePoint site, I will show you some of these presentations that are available. We do not put our scopes on any of our websites, but the kickoff meetings give a good presentation of the tasks under that scope. In addition, the closeout meeting presentation details the work that was done underneath that scope and details that information as well. There's some other task work amendment request forms, as well as guidelines for university presentation and publication, demonstration project request forms, some of our pooled fund study request forms, and some additional resources. All of our task work orders are written under a university master agreement, which is contained here. And there's the research program manual, which I've referenced in some of my previous slides, which gives them a detailed accounting of the research center. Our research coordinators are also contained within this page as well. These are all the individuals that have been designated as research coordinators and their contact information. I would recommend reaching out to those, especially for those of you that are in the districts, to get in touch with them and to understand a little bit more about the processes in order to submit research projects. Once again, moving down onto the left-hand side of the screen, we've got just another little bit more information on some of the meetings that are scheduled and available. This more section of the Research Center external website has a related sites page, which really is an excellent resource. When that request for proposal goes out, the submitters of that request for proposal are required by that proposal to search for other work that might be related to their research needs. And so this page gives us access to the Transportation Research International Documentation, or TRID database, the Research in Progress database, which are the two main websites that you would go to see if there are any other research related to your needs statement, both nationally and internationally. We have a state DOT search engine, and as I mentioned earlier, our associations with AASHTO and Nchrp and ACRP are contained within this Cooperative Research Program's website. FHWA and some other websites are linked on this page. Some of the most requested sites that we have involve our project resources, which once again, is just what I presented earlier. Gives all of the information available to our project managers in preparing our scopes and going through the research center process. Completed research, once again, active and completed research projects. This usually loads, takes a bit, but please just give it a second. It will, present itself. You can also print this out into an Excel spreadsheet if you needed to have that information available. Research Program Manual, which I've referenced, is also available on this site. Once again, it's a very detailed manual giving all the information to the functions of the Research Center, the procurement process, etc. And finally, on this page, I'd like to present the Research Showcase. So this is part of our technology transfer function. So the Research Showcase is where we take our research projects and we present them out to other state DOTs, to national and international sources. We've recently contracted a consultant to assist us with promoting our research projects. So right now, some of those projects that have recently been completed or moving into an implementation phase that have a high need for the department are being researched and reviewed, and these project managers and principal investigators are being interviewed, and those reports are available on this website as well. Once again, this is part of our technology transfer function. So once again, that Research Center Internet site, gave us a little bit more information about us, our research program manual, and our project resources. The next site that I wanted to show you was our internal site, so our SharePoint site. Once again, only available to FDOT. We are in the process of taking some of the information that we wish to share with external partners from this site to our external-facing website, so that we could give a little bit more information that's contained within this site to our external partners as well. Once again, all of the links and the important information is located in the menu on the left. We have our active and completed FDOT research projects. So as I mentioned on the website, the external-facing website, we take our 500 most recent active and completed projects. This is on this SharePoint site. It's a little bit more detailed. You can go back a few more years to look at projects that have been completed. There's some various search functions. You can search by year completed or search by subject area. I'll go through each of these in just a minute. Our cooperative research projects, our Nchrp, our Nchrp 2, our transportation pooled fund projects, where we have panel members and FDOT personnel serving on those projects, are located on this page. As I mentioned, implementation is a big focus of the Research Center, and so we've tracked some projects that we're implementing right now. We have some information contained on those. Mentioned earlier is our association with Nchrp, and the Nchrp Ballot information is here, broken down by functional area as well. Project management resources is the same information, and we'll just refer you back to our external website, as well as the contact information and our research showcase. Once again, on this one is the Research Center contacts and our email addresses if you needed to get in touch with us. I want to start first with the active and completed FDOT research projects. So this is a really good page and a beefed up search engine that we've contributed a lot of data to recently. So across the top, we have various forms or fields that we can use to select. If you were looking for just completed projects or just active projects, you could search through that function as well. If you were looking at year completed, if you knew of a project that was completed within a certain year, you're able to search through that as well. As I mentioned earlier, this does go back to 1994, so it's a bit more conclusive than the external facing. Here's our contract numbers, which will give you a little bit more information on the objectives, et cetera, and I'll bring one of these up as an example. Here's the title of the project, the office that it serves. Here's the contractor, and this is usually our university partners, but it does involve some private contractors as well for those projects that have gone out for RFP or request for proposals that are open for bid. If you wanted to search a project by one of our FDOT project managers, you're able to search through those and bring up all of their projects. If you wanted to check a little bit of a status or pass some information on your projects, you're able to search just for your projects here as well, and you can do that by last name or first name. And then, of course, we have the same type of search function for principal investigators. So we can search for our principal investigators by their last name or their first name. So for the sake of ease, I'm just going to go ahead and choose this first one. It's an active project to be completed in the year 2022. Here's our contract number. So we'll select our contract, and it'll give a little bit of information. Once again, this is not This is not as detailed as a scope would be, but it takes various components of that scope and puts it into a field that will give everybody a sense of what the project is. I think one of the more important things here is the objectives of the project. All of this information is contained on this front page, but is available here as well. One thing that we've added to this and that we've tried to populate over the last couple years is our project benefits, our qualitative and our quantitative benefits. So in our request for proposals, we have a section that must be filled out by all of the submitters that ask for these benefits. How does it benefit the DOT and the functional area? Qualitatively, and if possible, quantitatively. The implementation items, what will the project produce for implementation, and an implementation comment. So it will give a little bit more information on how we perceive that this information will be used. Now this is updated through the life cycle of the project, which I am in charge of. So this implementation comment on this project will be from the kickoff, so it will be the inception of the research project. So the implementation comments is kind of an anticipated implementation. And as we move through the project and go through our midpoint conferences that we have to discuss deployment and implementation, these things will be updated as processes and more stakeholders are involved in the research result. If this was a completed project, the summary report title would be contained here as a web address, which would be copied into a browser. All of our projects, when they are approved, are entered into the Research and Progress database and given a TRID subject area. So once again, I can show you some search by subject area features as well, where you could look at all of our projects through all of our functional areas that might involve just a specific subject area. And one of the other things that I wanted to show you were the attachments. So for example, this has a project kickoff presentation. And if I open this up, this will give you just a little bit more information, which is kind of a, once again, as I mentioned earlier, the scopes aren't added to any of these websites for review or to see, but these presentations typically do detail those scopes and talk about each task and what they're going to be doing and the timeline and the implementation concerns. And so these are produced by the principal investigator in coordination with the project manager. So this information is available to all of the FDOT employees in order to see a little bit more about what those projects are entailing. So I'm going to close this. Once again, you're able to search through Office. So if you wanted to go specifically down to your office, all of your projects would come up. If you wanted to just look at your completed projects, you could look at that as well. You could even drill down to the project managers within your area. So we could certainly go down and look at some of our projects. So for example, these are all of David Horhoda's projects, completed projects. Once again, if we went to each one of those contract numbers, we would find information about that research project, kickoff, closeout meetings, et cetera. Another thing I wanted to present was, the related contracts. So sometimes our projects are presented in phases, and so our other phases are addressed here. So you could go back and look at the first project and how it was started and how it moved into its next phase. So there's a lot of ways to search through this site and this particular tab on the left-hand side of our SharePoint. Once again, search by year completed. So if you wanted to look specifically, if you knew of a year that the research was completed, you could certainly search through that as well. The search by subject area is another function, whereas I mentioned when our projects are approved and executed, where they're entered into the research in progress, which then takes it to a TRID database as well. So our TRID subject areas are defined by, this is nationally defined, but if you wanted to look for a subject area such as highways or geotechnology, you could see all of the research center projects related to that subject area and the year that they were completed. You could just expand upon this and it would give you all of those projects. So this search function has been enhanced and has been improved within the last couple years to give us a little bit more information and relevancy and to speed up all of these searches as well. So the subject area is a nice feature. As I mentioned earlier, the Research Center is associated with cooperative research projects such as Nchrp and Transportation Pooled Fund. So what we've done at the Research Center is we've taken all of the Nchrp projects that we have members serving on those projects, and we've included all of these going from Nchrp to Transportation Pooled Fund studies, some Nchrp 2 projects as well. Gives us a status and gives us our FDOT contact. So if you're interested in any of these, then we do have information. If we go to some of these project sites, it will actually take you to that Transportation Pool Fund site, give you a little bit more information on the Pool Fund Program project, and provide a little bit more information, give you a study description. If there's any progress reports, they will be available as well. So that's just accessing a national site. And once again, those are for Nchrp projects as well. We'll just take you to the Nchrp project site. So another thing that we've added to keep us abreast as a DOT on some of the research that we're contributing to the national discourse as well. As I mentioned, implementation is a huge concern for the Research Center. We want to make sure all of our research results, when applicable, can be implemented, and hopefully implemented statewide, if not, within the districts. So the district research needs are very important to us as well, as a central office function too. So we've chosen, approximately 20 to 25 projects. Some of them have been completed, but these are the ones that we're now tracking. Gives us the contract number of that project as well as a related contract as well to kind of see the progress as the project has moved forward in its various phases. Here's the project title, very similar to our active and completed research projects page. But we can go inside of these and get a little bit more information, and once again, kind of the benefits comments and the implementation items, as well as the presentations. We can also go to the project title, and we can look at which area it's the tracking office, which area it's serving. Once again, some of the previous contracts, our POC contact information, and then we have our POC comments, which we update regularly through our annual implementation meetings we have with our functional areas, as well as any updates that might be needed during the life cycle of the project. So within the POC comment, you might find some recent comments concerning the implementation of this project. and any attachments that might be available for those. So once again, once our projects move from active to completed, if they have a research result that has been designated for implementation or requested for implementation, whether that's through a demonstration project or an implementation project, it's tracked on this page. So just shows the continuity of the projects as it moves through its life cycle. Once again, over on the left-hand side is the Nchrp Ballot. This is something that's sent out by our research manager every year. So if we look at our Nchrp Ballot program areas, we can look at all the Nchrp projects by all areas, or we can go down specifically to a functional area. Take a look at the proposed Nchrp balloted projects, and typically we'll ask for a review if it's involving other offices or our technical leads within that section. As mentioned earlier, this is just a project management resources. This is our external facing website. It's just a duplication of that, but it's available to be accessed through our SharePoint site as well, our contact information, and our research showcase. So this is just kind of an overview of some of the resources that we have available for FDOT personnel, as well as some of our external partners as well with our external facing website. If there are any questions concerning any of this, you can please contact me.